Now, this is where things just absolutely take off, right? If you're a guy that follows the MMA to a pretty nice tee, you know that Shane Burgos has been on the come up for a long time. And like I said, I brought his fight up against Josh Emmett just recently, but that's a very, very fun fight. Now, it's also a huge kudos to Emmett for the injuries that he sustained and for what he pulled off in that fight. But Shane Burgos' boxing is really, really good. And I think that when you see him fight certain guys, because he just completely pushes forward, and if you're not able to deal with that, which Emmett is actually really good in the striking department, I think that he has zero fear and just the grit and durability of an absolute monster. But in this case, you're seeing the same thing from Burgos, who outside of the Emmets of the world, I think that he's able to push the pace to the way he wants. The boxing is always crisp and always there for 3 rounds. He does get hit a lot, does keep his hands a little bit, but I think it's part of the style. I don't think he's taking too much damage to the point where he's not kind of trying to land himself. And Edson Barboza, right? We know what he brings to the table. Beautiful spinning attacks, great kicks to the legs, kick to the body. I think that if you're Edson Barboza in this fight, a great example of a fighter you want to chop the legs on. Burgos is going to keep pushing forward, man. This is not a 5-round fight. Like this is a fight where both these guys can pretty much go all 3 rounds unless they take a stupid amount of damage. And that's where Barboza, for me, it's like, stay out of that boxing range. And if you get tempted to take it to the ground because you're not feeling, I mean, funny enough, Burgos said that he really predicts that Edson Barboza is going to want to take this fight to the ground because of the success he's going to have on the feet. So that pretty much gives you an idea of where Burgos sees his game plan and sees where the fight's going to go. But Edson Barboza, right? How do you avoid that from happening? I think throwing solid, there's no one you can ask for more when it comes to kicking, but leg kicks and body kicks, I think, is the one way to slow this guy down. I think that the hand movement is there to block some of the head kicks. But again, I think of any fighter who can kind of sneak them in there, it's definitely Edson Barboza. So again, we're talking about matchmaking, right? We got a guy who's going to keep pushing the pace and come forward and use his boxing skills to really wear on you versus a guy who's got, top tier kicks in the UFC pound for pound and really has to use them to avoid kind of getting into Shane Burgos' range and where he can kind of really do some damage, because we've seen Barboza in those fights, right? Where he does take a lot of that boxing style damage, where he does wear it pretty poorly and then does kind of get beat up for the next couple rounds. He just isn't all there, but the heart of both these guys is what's going to make this fight really fun. Don't be surprised if these guys are the ones that win the fight of the night bonuses and stuff like that. I think that there's just no question for me that I think this is the fight that just makes things exciting as hell moving forward for the rest of the night. It's hard to pick too, I'm trying to really figure out which guy I think can exploit the other one pretty quickly. I think that Burgos is just recency bias for me, just the guys he's been fighting and the performance he's had, the Cub Swanson split's really the thing that was closest, but the one guy to completely knock him out was Calvin Kattar, who just fought, Max Holloway in an absolute bloodbath. But, since then, 3-1, only lost to Josh Emmett, who, again, I truly believe that if he was able to stay healthy, that's a guy that would have fought for the title without question, or at least been in a title eliminator fight. But those are the guys that Burgos is losing to. So that really is for me where you have to ask yourself, is Edson Barboza at that level? Is he having some kind of a second awakening where he's now taking out big time prospects like Burgos, who's slowly becoming a contender? Because you're looking at Edson Barboza's record, you have the Dan Hooker win, which was a beautiful body punch, but then Gaethje, Felder, Ige, decisions, split decisions, all that kind of stuff. For me, I don't think this guy should go anywhere for the rest of his career. Exciting fights, right? Anytime I see split decisions against Paul Felder, I mean, I can watch that fight in my head and know it was absolutely exciting and fun as hell to watch. So for me, the Amir Khani fight was a huge win, notch on the belts. Those are the fights that, we talked about Mazani and Ostovich. Same thing, man. Like, these fighters are taking on championship level fighters. Dan Ige, to me, is approaching a top 5 level fighter. So Edson Barboza now is in a position where he's coming off of the Amir Khani win and now has a chance to take on another fighter who's in that realm of top 10s that's fighting for that title shot, where he can prove himself and say, no, you know what, back down a little bit. It's my turn to try and see if I can get back to that level. I'm excited for this fight. You need to be excited for this fight. It's going to be a striking battle. I don't see this fight going to the ground at all. And if it does, it's 100% going to be a defensive thing. Like, I don't see them going from an offensive perspective to the ground. You look at the takedown defense on both sides. Shane Burgos, man, 89% takedown defense versus Edson Barboza, 78%. the cool thing about Burgos, man, in his UFC fights, 100% takedown accuracy. The guy is a volume fighter in everything he does. He's one of the most exciting fighters, pound for pound, and he does everything well, man. 5.81 outstrikes absorbed, but the guy lands at 7.31. You know, that's the output that we're seeing from a guy like this, and he doesn't slow down. You have to end him. And that's where I think like a guy like Josh Emmett is a complete outlier. His heart, his grit, his durability is what keeps him in fights, and his striking power is just on another level, and his accuracy is there. And that's where I think like kudos to Burgos for going the distance with him and trying to pull off that win. This is going to be an incredible fight. I hope you're excited for it.